Welcome everybody to Facebook Live here from sunny London. We're at Guinness World Records headquarters, and we're joined today by the amazing Eli Bishop from Nashville, USA. Welcome, Eli.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is a really cool experience already. So thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's good to have you. And in case you haven't already guessed, Eli holds the record for the most claps in a minute. So if you're listening in at home, if you're watching at home, please do leave your questions for Eli and we'll field them to him as it happens. And if you could also tell us where you're from, and we'll make sure that we ask any questions that you have to Eli as our broadcast takes place. And we're also going to give you the opportunity to clap along at home and learn some cool new techniques. So Eli, how did you first discover that you had an amazing talent for clapping?
Well, when I was a sophomore in high school, I saw the previous record holder. His name's Kent French, and I think he was the first one to set the record for most claps in a minute. And it was bizarre and incredible, and I wanted to do it. So I saw him on MySpace videos doing something kind of like this, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. But I guess I've always been kind of obsessive with figuring things out if I get started on them. So I spent a lot of time walking around the hallways in school, kind of figuring out how to clap. And I finally, kind of after about a week, got to about where I could do like that, you know? Maybe not quite as tonally, probably more like that, but yeah, and then I just practiced it, and suddenly I was pretty fast at it.
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
And, Eli now holds the record, and how long have you held the record for?
I guess a little more than 2 years now. I think I got it May 2014, so.
Have you seen any kind of pretenders to the throne on the horizon?
I haven't, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere. So I'm definitely a little nervous.
So you say like when you went around developing your technique, it took you about a week. So how did you speed up to the point where we can see in the video behind us,
Sure.
where you were really clapping at such an incredible rate? Was it just a case of repeating and going over and over again?
Yeah, it was definitely repetition, and I've taught this to people back home, and one thing that's very consistent with it is that you find yourself doing it out of habit as soon as you start doing it. So you'll be sitting there thinking, and suddenly you're sitting there going like this, and then you realize that you're doing it. Sometimes if I get really excited, I start clapping. I had to work on not doing that because that's socially inappropriate. But so just out of habit of doing it, you know, and just kind of playing with it, just kind of doing rhythms with it.
And getting faster and faster and faster and faster.
Yep.
And actually, if you're watching in at home, and just a reminder that we're here live at Guinness World Records headquarters in London with Eli Bishop, who holds the record for the most hand claps in 1 minute. Now, Eli is here, and he's going to show us a few of his techniques. And if you're watching in at home, see if you can guess what his record is. We're not going to tell you now. There may be clues on the screen behind me, so no cheating, please. So leave that in the comments, and let us know any questions that you have for Eli as well. So, Eli, how did your friends and your family react when you told them that you had achieved a Guinness World Records title?
Well, I've been doing it for quite a few years at that point, so a lot of people kind of said, finally, you know, that I went ahead and did it. My dad gave me a big hug, you know, and my mom was pretty excited too. My brother was very excited about it as well. It was a really awesome thing to have happen. A lot of my friends were really invested in it. People from high school I'd known were excited about it. They shared it around on Facebook and everything, you know. So, and my friend Rowan, who filmed this video, she helped me out, you know, filming it and everything. She was super excited about it as well.
And this was all filmed in a professional recording studio so that you could pick up every single piece of the action, every single noise that you made with your hands. So I believe our guidelines state that it must be the movement of the hand, the palms clapping together.
Right.
So this actual recording had to come along with professional sound engineers who had to kind of sign it off and say this guy actually did make these sounds with his palms.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I did it at the Berklee College of Music in Boston. I was a student there for 2 years, from 2010 to 2012, and we went into one of the soundproof studios there, which is part of the requirements, and set the mic up at the proper height and distance as it's listed, you know, and actually the first time we did it, well, I shouldn't say that because I'll give away the number of times, but the first time I did it, I was going to submit it, and I was so close to another number that I wanted to go back and do it again. So we did it twice to get to the goal I wanted. But yeah, in the soundproof studio there, and counted out each of those beats, sent off to you guys, and yeah.
So that must have been a pretty nerve-wracking moment when you actually sent it away and you thought, okay, have I got this in the bag? Or
it was, yeah. I think I sent it through the post, and I sent it online. Yeah, I just, I had it set up to make sure it let me know when it got here and everything, and I wanted to make sure that you guys got it so I'd have a shot at it,
So, what's your day job, Eli? What is it that you do for a job?
I'm a musician for a living. I'm a violin player primarily. I work a lot in the country music industry since I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, but I do a lot in the jazz world and classical world as well.
So that kind of technique of percussion is that's all part of your daily work as well?
A little bit, yeah. My favorite thing is showing it to drummers, because drummers usually freak out about it and want to learn it then, and they notice a lot of similarities with my technique and kind of a double technique that they'll use with the sticks, a double stroke.
And so, with your day job, you say you're based in Nashville.
Yeah.
Lots of kind of session musicians there,
Mm-hmm.
and you're playing with lots of different bands.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever performed your clapping technique on stage as part of a performance?
I have, yeah. There is there's like a gypsy jazz group called Occidental Gypsy. It's based out of Rhode Island that I play with some, and they will definitely have me do it during most shows. There'll be kind of a breakdown section. They'll be kind of comping in the background. I'll start clapping real slow, and usually they introduce you. They'll say he has the world record for most claps of the minute, and people think, yeah, right. So yeah, I usually try and do some rhythmic things with it as well, and build it up to the top speed there.
So, Eli, for those that are just joining us, if you could possibly just show off your technique
Sure.
For the viewers at home.
Sure.
If you're just joining us, this is Eli Bishop, and he holds the record for the most claps in 1 minute. Just go ahead.
Okay.
Really is incredible technique, and you were saying earlier about the calluses that you develop on your hands as a result of clapping at such a rate. So
Yeah.
So how do you get around that issue of actually hurting your hands and causing damage?
Well, I have to practice, or get some hand lotion and put it on so it doesn't hurt. But yeah, if I do it enough, like I was telling you earlier, I took a trip to Hong Kong to clap last September, and I knew I was going to be there for 10 days clapping, and I practiced probably more than I did for the record attempt before I went over there, because I wanted to make sure I could clap for a minute at that speed anytime they wanted me to, So I had to build up calluses on my wrists, and while I was over there, one of those calluses actually popped, but I was lucky enough to have 2 days off to heal. So, yeah.
So this is the kind of pain that you go through to become a world record holder. So as you're based in Music City in Nashville, Tennessee, which musicians have you been most excited to perform alongside in your career?
Oh man, Wynton Marsalis. I played with him a few days before my 21st birthday a few years ago. I went up to Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York and was able to play with him and their Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life for sure. So definitely him. Lots of greats in Nashville too. Wynton is at the top of my list for sure, though. He's the first one I think of.
And you're here on tour in the UK.
Yeah.
So who have you been playing with the last few days?
I've been out with a band called Maddie and Tay. They're a pop country group from Nashville, and we went around. We went to Manchester. Started out in Manchester. Went to Glasgow for a day, Birmingham for a minute, and then London, Bristol, and then I came back up to London to see you guys. So.
And what instruments have you been playing other than maybe clapping a little bit during the performances?
Well, with Maddie and Tay, I'm their utility player, which means I do a lot of different instruments to fill in the stuff that they don't have necessarily from the record. So I'm primarily a fiddle player, but I'll play acoustic guitar with them and mandolin as well. So, very cool.
Rach, do we have any questions from the audience?
We have a couple.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So Cody Paul asks, how many claps is the record? And I guess at this stage we can reveal.
It's 1,020 in a minute.
That's incredible.
Initially, I think I did 970 something, and I was doing about 16 per second. So I thought I'm so close to 1,000, I got to break 1,000. Somebody will break my record at some point, so at least I can get 1,000 first,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Erin Septimo asks, does it hurt when you clap?
If I clap for too long, it does. Yeah. After the record attempt there, I did it three times to make sure I got it right in the studio, and afterwards I had torn the skin off my wrist, so it was kind of bloody and painful for a few days after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So something we always ask record holders when they come to visit us here at Guinness World Records headquarters is, do you have any memories of the book growing up, and do you have any favourite record holders that you find especially inspiring?
I definitely do, yeah. I remember getting the Millennium Edition back in 2000. I think I was in grade school then. Yeah, and I remember getting that, I think, for Christmas. And it was so cool just reading through that and thinking how awesome it'd be to have a Guinness World Record, and it's crazy to actually have one now. You know, that was amazing. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the guy who has the most Guinness World Records, whose name's escaping me now.
Ashrita Furman.
Right. Yeah. I've watched a lot of his videos, and he is just an amazing athlete and record setter, record breaker. It's incredible. So he's one of my favorites for sure.
And I believe Ashrita Furman currently holds around about 190 Guinness World Records titles. Correct me if I'm wrong, records management team. I think we're around that sort of mark for Ashrita. So at this point in the proceedings, I'm going to hand things over to Eli, who's going to bring up some volunteers from our audience here at Guinness World Records headquarters and ask them if they'd like to learn a new clapping technique. So people, please come forwards.
It's not that bad.
Don't be shy. Okay.
Anyone else?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so there's a couple stages to it to get to where I am. The way I'm doing it is a double clap that I came up with as a result of trying to be quieter. In school, walking around the hallways, everybody heard me coming down the hall, so I was trying to figure out how to get a closer space, and I started doing something like this to kind of get more rhythmic, and then suddenly I was doing 2 claps for arm motion. So the initial way is to have your fingertips here, and kind of like a golf clap, you know, and then the other side.
And everyone at home, please do join in, and everyone here in the audience, please give it a go.
Right to left. Right to left. And it's not so much of a wrist motion. A lot of people think it's wrist motion, but it's more of a pivot at the elbow. If I close my hands, it looks kind of like this, but you're going side to side like that. And then you get faster with it. You just, yeah, exactly. If you think about kind of closing the amount of space you're taking up, so you don't use so much space with it, you can kind of get faster with that. Oh, this is incredible. I've never heard this many people doing it before, but I've always wondered what it would be like to have an audience.
Nice work, guys. Nice work.
So that's stage 1 of it, and then to do the secondary technique of it, you kind of hit like your lower palm wrist area here into that palm, so it'd be right to left. And from there you pull straight down to the fingertips. And from there it resets straight to there, so you don't take up too much space, and then there. So it doesn't make much noise if you're slow with it. And I kind of cup my hands a little bit for it too.
So a slight cupping of the hands at this point.
Right. But with that double technique like that, you can go same amount of arm motion, twice as fast.
And please do try and attempt this at home. Eli's just showing us how he holds the record for the most claps in 1 minute. And yeah, so if you're watching at home, follow these instructions. Maybe we'll take it right from the start again, and give it another try.
Sure.
So if you're watching at home, give this a try. And we're at Guinness World Records headquarters here in London, just to reiterate to our audience that have just joined us. And we're just learning some amazing hand clapping techniques.
So there's 2 stages of it. The initial one, which is how the record was initially set, is the single clap, and I do a double clap where I get 2 hits per arm motion or per hand hit. I'll show you the initial one. You basically do a golf clap on both sides, the fingertips to palm, and you kind of rotate less from the wrist but more from the elbow, so it's more of a arm motion. And when you get going faster with it, you kind of get a little bit of an up and down with it as well. So when you're doing that, you're going pretty fast with singles, so you're going. But with the double, you strike lower palm area there to wrist, and you hit that into your opposing palm. So it doesn't make much sound when it's just by itself. But from there, it slides down to the fingertips. And there, it resets without lifting. You pull that palm down and those fingertips down. So you actually don't take up much space like that, which was part of what I was trying to figure out when I was doing the singles, so I wouldn't be doing this. You know, I figured if I get smaller with it, it would go faster. So you go palm, fingertip, and it's...
So Eli, do you think that as a musician you kind of have this instinct for rhythm that kind of helps you work out how to get that sweet spot in the clapping kind of rhythm?
Probably to some degree, yeah. Yeah, because I'll explain. When I did this record, initially I was doing around 960, I think, in a minute, because I had a metronome in my ear because I subdivide it when I'm doing it. So if I have a metronome going, or I used to watch a second hand to test myself to see. So I'd see a second hand going by, and I'd see it kind of, you know. And so I'd think like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I do the same with the doubles. I would just count 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and know that was 16 per beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
there must be a point where you just can't count anymore, right?
Well, yeah, but it's not. That's why, you know, I'm not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. You know, that's why I'm doing 1 to 8 like that. But initially, I was getting, I guess, around 960 claps in a minute like that. And I figured or 970, and I figured I'm so close to 1,000, I bumped the metronome up to 64 beats per minute and counted the same way so that I could make sure I got over 1,000.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, guys, would you like to try again with from the techniques that you've learned? Would you like to give this another try, maybe?
Okay, I'll try.
And just to remind everyone at home that as Guinness World Records employees, we're not actually allowed to hold records. So even if we were to become incredibly talented from this instructional course, we wouldn't be allowed to hold the record.
But it is fun.
Yes, it's a whole lot of fun. Minus the calluses and the exploding flesh and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I think that I'd like everyone here to give Eli a huge round of applause, but only using the technique that he's shown us today. So, big round of applause for Eli from Nashville, USA. Thank you very much for watching at home, and tune in very soon. We'll have a lot more live broadcasts coming up in the next few days. Thanks very much for watching, everyone.